Uh, yeah, 73-0. I mean, what do I even talk about in this video? What is the point in sort of breaking down the game? I don't think there is much point. And we didn't throw a punch really, and we were just. It was like watching, to use the punch analogy. It was like watching like John Jones go down and fight someone in like a white collar MMA fight. That was the standard difference. It was very, very difficult as a Welsh fan to watch. Can't imagine it was very fun for the players to be involved in. We can talk about the reasons behind this game being played. They were owed this game from a few years ago that they needed to play. Obviously, the union's struggling for money, and we kind of everyone knew that this was going to be really difficult. But off the back of the New Zealand game, kind of personally had some feelings that if we could, it was. I didn't think we would perform as well as we did against New Zealand, but I kind of had the feeling as if we saw some players stand up, a couple of players have a little bit of an individual performance, and we see the processes that have worked in the previous games work, then you could say it wasn't all that bad, but we didn't see anything. The scrum was, I mean, this is one of the best teams in the world. Yes, they were missing players, but they still had such a strong team. And that the scrum was shattered from minute one to the end. And the scrum's been pretty decent over the other three autumn games. Credit to Duncan Jones for that. But it was like it wasn't a contest. It was just a bullying. And then just in defence, when South Africa had the ball, we couldn't touch them once they went through phases. The connectivity between the defense was not right again, which it hasn't been. Obviously, it was always going to be difficult when you get a lot of players coming in who haven't even been in the camp up until this week. That was always going to be an issue. The continuation of the falling off tackles, which we should be making, which has become a bit of a pattern now over these last few games. Something we need to really sort out, and quite frustrating. On the defence, I mean, Esterhuizen had an absolute field day with Hawkins, really, and just that whole midfield. Really frustrating to see. I know it's part of the defensive structure, but it was the end of the first half, and we had the scrum on our 5 meter line, and yeah, the chances are they're going to score at that point. But they just bring Esterhuizen on a short crash, and we're defending on our try line, and we take like one or two steps off, and then we just sit and wait for him. I mean, you're not going to stop. You're not going to stop them if you don't come up and get in their faces. That has been a real problem for us. We sort of don't come up and meet the defense. We kind of just go up a little bit as a line, and then we sit and let them build up a head of steam, and then try to absorb it. And against a team who was so physical and so good as South Africa, it was just never going to work. You have to say credit to South Africa. Lost a lot of their players, but it didn't look like it. They just looked like these were the world champions. Obviously, there was a lot of the strong players in that team, but if I took my Welsh fan hat off and just watched them, I'd say they were a joy to watch. The way they play is just so physical, and now they've sort of got a bit of flair into the game. But yeah, Wales was just it was painful. That's one of the most disheartening games I've ever watched, because it's just even me, someone who has got a YouTube channel dedicated specifically to Welsh rugby. I was just so apathetic watching it, and I was just like, I can't wait till this is over, so I don't have to sit here and watch this anymore. and I reckon quite a lot of fans would feel the same. Um, on that though, South Africa played really well. We were outmanned, outpowered, but so many unforced errors as well. Don't want to call him out because he had a good autumn, but like Dan Edwards kicking it out from a kickoff in a stadium with no wind when we can't scrummage. Just so many things. Losing lots of high balls, not under pressure, constantly creeping offside, which was an issue last week. That is, I know that does tend to come from pressure, maybe, where you get players jump up, especially defending on your line, but it's happening all areas of the pitch, and that is that's a real issue. And then when you consider that we come off the line, trying to get off the line so quick, and then we don't go up and meet them, if we played a blitz defense where we're just trying to constantly fly up off the line, you can understand why we would be creeping off, but we're not even doing that, so it kind of doesn't make sense why we're doing that. And then, of course, the plague that has been of our line out, which has been for as long as I can remember. It hasn't really mattered for the last maybe like 4 or 5 years who's been playing hooker. The line out has struggled. Maybe Elliot D has been the best with that, but everyone else who's had a pop at hooker has really struggled to get the line out right. So yeah, it was really difficult, and the thing that really frustrated me even more was just how often we lost the breakdown battle straight away off our own ball. And I don't know what that is, because they wanted it more. They were physically stronger, they were mentally sharper, and the amount of times we got Jackal took the ball off us through a jackal or a penalty, it must have been over 10 times off the top of my head. I'm just literally recording this straight after the game's kicked off, so I haven't looked at any statistics. Just a bit of an emotional blur for me, I think, this one. I'll go into a bit more detail in my Dragon Sports video that'll come out on Monday. But yeah, I do have some issues with the attacking structure. For me, the first forward pod never seems to carry. We're trying to get to an edge straight away without drawing people in. The amount of times I noticed Azarati doing it a few times, but it's not just him. They take the ball off 9 as a forward pod, and I say never, but they 9 times out of 10 don't carry it up. They just pass it back and pull it back to the 10, which is fine to pull it back if you're mixing it up, because the defense never is coming to them and setting on them, because they know the ball's just going to ship. So that's more of a nitpick when you consider we just lost 73-0. But yeah, it was a really disappointing game. Great for the South African fans. Really kind of disappointed, though, I will say, with Etzebeth at the end. That was some people, I guarantee, are going to say that he didn't intentionally gouge him, but he did. You could tell by the way he had his finger bent, and it was in his eye. And it's just disappointing from, such an experienced player. Yeah, he's got an edge to him, but I've never really seen him do something like that. And when you consider the game was just so much of a cakewalk for South Africa, then I don't really understand why he did that. But I like him as a player, but I really hope he gets a hefty ban for that, because we simply can't have that in the game. A long time ago now, but the younger Cornell brother, I think it was Derek Cornell, lost his eye from a gouge. It can happen, and we don't want that in our game. So yeah, and ironically, that kind of spurred Wales a bit, because there was a bit of a ruckus, and it kind of gave the crowd something to get into, and people were trying to get in and grab some scruff, and it gave them a bit of a boost. We could have done with that a bit earlier in the game when we weren't 70 points to the bad, but it's just one of them things. This was a bit of a farce of a fixture, as I mentioned at the start. Also, our regions are playing. Cardiff won, but obviously the other games to come, Dragons lost. So this what did really this achieve other than putting some extra money in the coffers? The stadium wasn't sold out. The performance is gonna make people not come again, because if you paid money to go watch that, then you're thinking, I'm never doing that again, surely. And people watching on telly are thinking, I'm not going to pay to go and watch that, because what's the point? So yeah, I don't really. I think everyone lost in this, except for the people who run the game in Wales, who've got a little bit more money to waste. No, because that's all that seems to be happening with the money. But that is a different issue for a different day, and I will talk about that another day. But yeah, I'd like to know what you guys think of this one. I'm not going to go on very long, because there's not really much to talk about. I'm not even going to go through each player individually, or like I like to do, because it's hard to just pick anything out of, and I don't want to just completely criticize every player individually. But other than that, there'd be nothing for me to really react to. So I'm going to leave it with you, and I will catch you on the next one.